Hello, this is JJ from Paranormal Talks. And first off, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me each time I put out a video. And I want to thank each and every one of you for subscribing. And I want to thank especially the new subscribers over the last week or two. It's always so great to have you join us. You know, I love big parties, and what better place to do it than on a video posted on YouTube? So, hey, I'm going to pick up and further expand on data, predictive data around the global financial system that is now in the process of a meltdown. Indeed, this virus is causing uh, many opportunities that are being taken advantage of by various political groups across the world and in the United States in particular. They're leveraging this virus lockdown to have their way and making sure that a Democratic president is elected via mail-in ballots. But overall, this virus is a financial reset while everyone's taking advantages of it as much as they can. So I'll be showing you some basics. I always show the same cheat sheet because people who have not seen my previous videos, they'll know where this predictive information is coming from, as well as the dates. This video I'm pulling from the Alta report, which is generated by Cliff High, and those reports technically are called Alta reports, and I'll be showing that on the screen. Now, these reports, as with all predictions, and you know this, anyone who has a subscription to newsletters of these financial planners and other economists who sell their information on when to buy and sell equities, commodities, and those types of things. You know the hardest thing is to predict the date, the precision of the date. They always tend to get it wrong, probably 80 to 90% of the time. Now, the Alta report, it falls within that, only within the dates and the years in particular, and the months. That's the hardest part to get. However, the Alta reports that Cliff High generates are very accurate in terms of events. The timing is off, but the events, are very accurate. It's a 80 to 95% accuracy. So I'll be reading a highly condensed, edited down version of one of his Alta reports that was actually published in 2015. And I chose a 2015 report to provide you with the real concrete example of the dates being way off, however, the events being right on. Now, in reading this Alta report to you, which I've really condensed down since it's many pages, I'm just reading the financial section of the Alta report that applies specifically, mostly to the United States. And many of these events have already happened to us in our country, United States, financially. And with that basis, the forthcoming events that this Alta report specifies will probably be manifesting also. I can already hear and feel these financial meltdowns in the different areas of our government and of our banking system already, with the huge amount of financial information that is now available across the internet. So I'll be reading that to you. All right, let's get sharing some of these things. I always like to show you our website if you want to take a look at what we have to offer with in our video store. And if you want to know more about me, hello, okay, about me, just go to About Us and you can read about me, okay? Now let's look at the cheat sheet. This is the basis that I always refer to. This is a shortened version. I always refer to the three cycles, the three major events that we are in the midst of right now. That's what's causing so much craziness. And according to the, scroll up here, according to the quantum, the Socrates quantum computer system, Martin Armstrong looked at that, at the trends, and he says there will be a sharp increase in rioting this summer. And that quantum computer system has a 90 to 100% accuracy rate. He has a track record of many decades. But and then astrologically, this is what we're going through. I give you the astrological verbiage, since every science has its own verbiage, and then the English translation. The one we're talking about here is number 3. This is Uranus in Taurus. This is the destruction of the global financial system as we know it. We experienced it once already in our contemporary lifetime, which was 1935 to 1942. That was 8 years. We are still in the midst of that, and it will not finish with us until the year 2026, March of 2026 to be precise, because we like precision with our predictions. Let's look at the next thingy. Okay. I wanted to show you this good article from wealthresearchgroup.com. They have free newsletter blurbs. Their main thing is investing in equities and commodities. It's educational, and you take it for what it's worth. But this is the basis. I'm not going to be focusing on cryptocurrencies or any of those in this video as far as financials, the global financial market that's being reset. We're going to focus on gold. So that's why I'm pointing to this Wealth Research Group newsletter, where they just happen to come out. And what I'm saying is, the Ultra Report was already talking about this in 2015. You see how the year was off, how the date was off? This is now 2020, the year 2020. And it's really coming to the foreground, what was already talked about in the Ultra Report. So let me just read this to you. Government might get desperate. Indeed they will, because all government is dependent on money. They're dependent on your money and my money, us producers, us creative worker bees. If we don't provide them with money, they don't go anywhere. They cannot do anything because they need our money to use against us. So very important, before reading today's letter, which focuses on the 2 biggest potential money-making sectors of 2020, that's gold revaluation in post-virus reality and this medicinal investment. I don't want to even talk about that, since you can read that at your own leisure. Let's scroll down. I want to focus on the, and here's charts that they generate in this report. From today's price, there's still a 48% upside potential. This is before central banks and Congress just sprayed the planet with cash following the virus scare. And yes, they did. And this is a Bloomberg dollar index. So when I say financial system, that's things we consider money. That's things we consider currency, which would be gold and cryptocurrencies. But we're just talking about gold for this video. And this graph is provided courtesy of zerohedge.com. Bless them. Both of them. So from a technical analysis perspective, and the technical analysis are generally wrong. That's why I follow astrology, and which has a higher rate of accuracy, and the quantum computer system, Socrates. From a technical analysis perspective, the dollar is trading in a triangular range with a bearish momentum that could break below support by roughly 3.1% from here, with gold trading for 1,746. A 3.1% rally would put it right above 1,800, an important milestone for it. And yes, that would be. Right now it's at a ceiling. Since 2011, the price of gold has been at a ceiling. It keeps hitting that $1,800 ceiling, 1850, 1900. You can now understand why there are legitimate concerns that gold will soon be the world's true monetary unit of account again, not the dollar. Revolutions like these rarely happen. I am incredibly excited about the months ahead, and that's really great, and that it might shine a positive light on precious metals. So he goes on, blah, blah, and it's all great. Okay, so that's the basis: gold, dollars, currency. Um, so I'll be reading a portion of the Alter report to you. Let me show you. Here it is. Yes. Okay. Asymmetric Linguistic Trends Analysis, ALTA. ALTA report by Cliff High from halfpasthuman.com. And this is the report from 2015. Ignore the dates as I read this condensed version of this report. It's about 25 pages. Just a little blurb so we can orient you and give you some background. Predictive linguistics is predictive linguistics, how Cliff describes that is predictive linguistics harvest all of our natural psychicness that we key into the internet when we're communicating one with another all around the world in all languages. Linguistics means all languages, not just English. Okay. And then he predicts, he can pull these predictions of events, in particular, the dates so, but the event in particular by harvesting these linguistics. And that's why he calls them predictive, because our psychicness does predict stuff that's coming up for us. That is its purpose, is to have our back. Predictive linguistics is the process of using computer software to aggregate vast amounts of written text from the internet by categories delineated by emotional content of the words. Predictive linguistics uses emotional qualifiers and quantifiers, which is a good analysis. That's a good analysis methodology. Quality and quantity expressed as numeric values for each and all words, phrases discovered, filtered in their aggregation process. Over 80% of all words gathered will be discarded for one or more reasons. 80%. So generating these reports is a huge amount of work for Mr. Cliff High. He does have filters that he has programmed. I'm not sure of the language, PHP programming language, I'm not sure, but he does filter those. Okay, I want to give you some. If you haven't heard me read any of these Alta reports, other people have. Just want to give you what some of these words mean when I'm reading them to you. I will be reading a condensed version of the markets to you. The markets entity is a superset of linguistic structures covering paper, debt markets of all kinds, commodity trading markets, physical swap markets, currency usage, that's the US dollar also, within the population, digital currency developments, new technologies, financial technologies like cryptocurrencies. And I'll be focusing in this, this markets report, I'll be focusing on the US population, okay? So I can just make that go away because I'll be reading from a hard copy to you, okay? Here we go, markets. The immediacy data processing for this report is showing that the, so again, as I read, I'll be giving you years and months. Please ignore those because per that cheat sheet I show you of Uranus, it will be in and upsetting us financially until the year 2026. 2026, whatever that cheat sheet said. But I feel that what I'll be reading to you is already coming up here in 2020. It'll be getting even ever so much more so in 2021, 2022 through 2024 for sure. My guess is a lot of this will be happening if it hasn't happened already. The immediacy data processing, and when he says immediacy data, that means it's happening immediately, but since this is from 2015, maybe not so much. The immediacy data processing for this report is showing that the Federal Reserve makes a bad decision language will manifest before the end of December. The data is clear that a rise in interest rates is going to be as destructive as not raising rates. The data sets for the caught by your foot in a trap language is growing within the Federal Reserve sets. And when he says Federal Reserve sets, that means the central banks, privately owned central banks. We don't know who the owners are because they're privately owned, but they are banks that make loans to governments that you get to pay for if they make a bad loan. The data sets accruing to the decision sets are all negative and all go to the idea of a first and a minor one. That is a first and minor crash of the bonds. And following that is a grinding down, slow crash of the equities and a plummeting downward of real estate prices. Now, let me just quickly mention that in 2019, August, September, October, especially September, that's when this repurchase plan of debt by the Central Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve, that's when the central bank was repurchasing these overnight loans of all the other banks around the world. And they knew that they were going down. They were in big trouble. And then to bail themselves out, they unleashed the fake virus pandemic to distract you of the financial reset. The commodities crash that, well, anyway, that's the crash of the equities and the plummeting downward of real estate prices. So that's coming up for us. The commodities crash that will accompany the bad decisions of the Federal Reserve is indicated to appear in December. The contracts failure is showing as going to trigger instant returns on loans as a result of rapidly rising dollar, a temporarily rapidly rising dollar that causes a freak out on the bank side of the commodities loans. The dominating new data sets are within the market entity, which is the financial marketplace, within the markets entity, and are referencing via shorter term values the paper debt crash of March, April 2016. Again, ignore those dates because I feel this is coming up for us, especially with real estate. I listen to a number of real estate Zoom podcasts, and these very seasoned real estate investors, commercial and residential, they are already planning foreclosure seminars and investment opportunities. They're seasoned. They've seen this before. They know what it looks like. They know all the signs. So this paper debt crash of March, April 2016, in which the dominating rising supporting subset is labeled as debt destruction. The level of the debt destruction is showing as being crushing and debilitating to government, Federal Reserve, central banks, and regular banks, and stopping military development projects, since the military depends on you and me for everything they do. They produce nothing. They just spend our money. And exposing deep secrets as funding halts. Many of the supporting sets for this last group go to the idea of a huge layoff of workers in secret government programs. And we're already seeing plenty of that in the commercial sector, the private commercial sector. So we'll be seeing it in government programs too. Well, they're so secret, maybe we won't even know that these secret government employees are laid off. Who knows? Some of these sets are going to the idea of intergovernmental fighting and international government infighting as being the proximate cause of sudden funding cutoffs. The debt destruction wave is described in the supporting subsets. Now, the debt destruction wave, that is classic Uranus, the planet Uranus in the sign Taurus. Uranus, the planet of sudden radical changes and destruction, and Taurus, the sign of the banker, of the money person and money. The debt destruction wave is described in the supporting subsets by labels such as bone deep and eviscerating and hemorrhaging. Now, note that when human body parts or processes are labeled, are used as descriptors, do take very seriously these descriptors, as they are very primal archetypes within this Alta report. They have been found to have a very high level of accuracy in occurring. Okay, so that's the debt destruction. The debt destruction is indicated to manifest as bankruptcies and refusal to honor paper debt obligations. The supporting sets contain specifics about banks and insurance companies that will go into lockdown as they scramble for liquidity. So that's why it may be prudent for you to set aside as much cash as possible for you and your family. The data sets show that because if your credit card stops working, you still need cash. You still need a way to transact things. The data sets show that for the most part, the sought after escape from debt destruction is not available as the global liquidity levels fall dramatically. As model space is progressed through December of 2015, remember, ignore that date because this is 2020 now, we encountered the first series of banks in distress sets that combine, and that's already happening in 2020, distress sets that combine in the March-April period to form supporting sets for global liquidity crises and the destruction of dollar paper debt. These first hints of the looming liquidity disaster will show in late December as banks in the U.S.A. will have a hiring bonus freeze put into effect. The real key is that this apparently a secret that will leak into the financial propaganda press. The data sets are showing that the stock market crash of March, April 2016 is going to be temporarily coincident with gold no offer markets, in which the forecast is that days, weeks will be coming where there is no gold to be sold in officialdom markets. Now, this is already May of 2020, and we have already been experiencing that since March, April, March-ish, April and May of 2020. We've already experienced this. No gold to be sold in officialdom markets. Already experiencing that. Just go out and try to find try and buy gold or even gold bars at any price. The first of these incidents of failure to deliver no offer, none available periods is showing in the data as model space is progressed through March and April of 2016. There is so much new data, and so many of the new sets are affecting the market's entity that it is difficult at this point to pin down any time frame closer than a 2-month range. The no offer period will begin with a day of visible scrambling that will show panic in the part of participating members on global financial media. This will then trigger a refusal to deliver that will be part of the process of the no gold offered day that will rock markets. So I guess this will be getting worse. I know if you want to sell gold, you can sell it for maybe just over 1 troy ounce, sell it at just over $1,900, which is not that much, especially when you can't buy it anywhere. So this market is definitely being manipulated, and those prices are being suppressed hard. Okay, what's next? The data sets for gold, specifically not including silver, show that gold is going to hold sway over the global economy for over 25 years. The data shows that the price of gold in dollars will be catastrophic for the central banks near mid-2016. Maybe it'll be mid-2020. But But that from that point forward, gold is described as taking hold of the global economic system over the course of the next 4 years. This is not referencing silver, as these sets are going to the idea of gold and later Bitcoin emerging as sovereign and large trade settlement means. Further, gold is showing that being the pathway for silver as it becomes a settlement means for daily life, day-to-day life. It is at this point in late 2016 that the Greek and Turk silver mining at the bottom of the Aegean Sea starts to emerge into visibility. These sets continue to show that a Greek shipping owner is going to bond with a Turk, former military, academic, who knows, who will provide the underseas understanding. The immediacy data sets are showing that silver is going to reach an emotional state of advancement as December passes. In supporting sets, we find that observation of world threats will be a factor in parallel maneuvers that are going to propel the advancement. The pricing mechanisms for silver are described as being recreated from fundamental building blocks as the old system has reached a point of daily hardships. These daily hardships and burdens on the financial paper system reach a severe bending point in early December that begins to propel the influence of both precious metals and Bitcoin into prominence. These sets are gaining supporting subsets with descriptors that suggest that gold and Bitcoin, and to a lesser extent silver, are going to shift into becoming settlement commodities as geopolitical tension problems cause breakdowns in the former mechanism. The data sets are showing a bending until breaking curve for the paper debt, credit-backed Federal Reserve US dollar digits. However, at the same time, we have data sets going to the idea that paper cash notes, and especially change, coins, dimes, quarters, will rise rapidly in local purchasing power. So if you can actually buy what's called junk silver, dimes, junk, which are made before 1964, do it. Do it. So these change, coins, dimes, quarters will rise rapidly in local purchasing power. These sets are dominated by longer term data, with the inference being that we are going to witness the international dollar death over 2016. Again, ignore that date because this is 2020, but the event sounds right on. But that at least through to 2020, we will have Federal Reserve notes and Treasury issued coins as circulating currency within the USA, although it may be less than continental, which means that currency is not used as a reserve currency in countries in South America or Europe or the Mideast or anywhere else. And our currency is used in other countries right now. They don't even have their own currencies. They use United States currencies, such as Ecuador, a small country like that. The immediacy data sets are showing that a feeling prosperous Federal Reserve note, US dollar, will over the course of December go from prosperous to on fire. Noting the ambiguity of the on fire descriptor, we must delve into the deeper subsets in search of a meaning hidden within the emotional sums around the subject, which is on fire. We have on fire descriptor as the ending condition emotionally for the US dollar at the end of December. Again, ignore that month. In getting to this emotional state, we see a move from prosperous, which has an emotional tone of content or comfortable, over to on fire with an emotional tone of continuously anxious and requiring constant alertness and dancing around, spreading brush fires, and other such sets, all indicating an emotional state that is anything but content with the circumstances. The sets that accrue to the US dollar, the Federal Reserve note, set that moves our emotional sum tone over this month of December include descriptors for paranoid and 3 years of crisis, and undoing 3 years of excess, and crack in the barrier, and explicit references to bad luck that will be a 3 years burden to the Federal Reserve. Other sets include bespoke references to neglected matters over the last decades that must be reconciled, that is, dealt with. Some of the early signs for the US government pay structure seizure is shown as being in the student loan colleges area. Then rapidly, the failure of the welfare system in a state-by-state way. Now, we've already been seeing that, especially with the pension systems of every state. Every state is mostly bankrupt, except maybe South Dakota. Their pension system is funded. Pensioners are already taking cuts in their monthly pension payments. So this is already happening. And the welfare system, that's all the stuff that we give away for free to people. The data shows that when the fifth state fails to pay welfare, which is a very bad thing for any government if they cannot dole out that free money to the recipients, ooh, that's very bad. There is a cascade of defaults that begin occurring that then bring in yet more states and territories. This cascade of defaults is also being temporarily linked to the deepening fracturing of the political process within the United States, because all political parties, all political processes, they absolutely depend on a robust financial system. They float on a sea of finances provided by you and me and the bankers who create money out of thin air. Now, this last paragraph, this is the last part of it. This is very interesting because we've been talking about space, about the space economy, and that is a real thing. We're just not hearing about it a lot because, you know, we're treated like mushrooms. You know, we're kept in the dark and we're fed poo-poo. Other problems for the dollar is indicated to come from the Federal Reserve owners themselves. Now, the Central Bank of the United States, Federal Reserve, that private bank, we do not know who the owners are. Since it's private, right? We don't know who they are, their names, where they live, what they do, what they look like, nothing. These sets are gaining supporting sets from the idea of a global concerted effort to shift into a competing space economy. And even before Space Force was officially created, and I think headquartered in Colorado Springs, Colorado, we didn't hear anything about the Space Force or the space economy. But here it was in 2015. By the way, he gathered this data in 2014. So that's the accuracy of the Alta reports from Cliff High. The idea from the data is that space-based economy is not able to function if it is limited to precious metals. That is the gold standard. Oh, we can't have the gold standard and have a space economy, can we? Not sure about that. These sets are extensively cross-linked over to the Space Goes Farts entity. The Space Goes Farts, that's in another part of the Alta report. So that part, and into multiple differing terminating sets. However, the idea is that two competing memes are fighting it out in the secret dark corners of the private central Federal Reserve world. One that a precious metals-based economy somehow is required here on Earth in order to support a space-based economy. The other meme, the other competing meme against it is that all money must be subsumed to credits within the ideologically driven social order. This second meme, this latter one, is definitely about the space-based part of the global economic vision that is clearly within the new supporting subsets. Many of these sets are cross-linked over to the China population and are suggesting that competition in space is seen by the elites, the elites, the ones who are hidden, who are secret, we don't know who they are, where they live, who own the Federal Reserve Central Bank, those elites, that it is seen by those elites, this space-based economy, as a motivation path for Western millennials, that generation in the Western countries, those millennials. So they're the target for this competition in space. The millennials will snap it up. That's all you have to do is scare them into it and they'll jump right on board. It's easy to manipulate the cattle. So that is an update from the Ultra Report. Keep some of these things in mind and possibly position yourself. We love to have predictions. Most of all, we like accurate predictions as far as days, months, and years. The Ultra Report, not so good with that, but the events, yes, very good, very accurate. So I hope that this information has helped spark some other thoughts in your head and possibly moved you to take some steps, some actions to position yourself so you're in a better place financially as this global reset continues here in America and around the world. So this is JJ from Paranormal Talks, and I'll be talking to you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.